Right. So on the motion that this House would not punish child soldiers, am I right? I'd like to invite the Prime Minister to defend the case in his or her name. Yeah, yeah. Very borrowed time. Yeah.
Imagine yourself in the Rwandan war, where children are forced to participate in this war. They've seen violence happen, their stuff taken from them, their parents killed, and out of fear and insecurity, they joined the war. This is why side government today strongly supports the motion the House would not punish child soldiers. A child is like a clean canvas. They wouldn't want to do anything bad naturally unless fear or force is instilled upon them. They easily get affected by emotional damage like fear and losing the loved ones. Status quo is tribal wars, especially those in Africa, force these children into war, which they never wanted to be a part of. For example, the Rwandan genocide between the Tutsi and the Hutus. The child never wanted to do all the violence. They were forced into this by their superiors, by the tyrants, by their fear. So our stance today is we would never give any sort of punishment to the child soldiers. This is because we believe we can reintegrate them into society. We can make them useful people who can contribute back to society, become useful. And then we don't want the past, the ghost of the past, to haunt them. This is very horrific. Our policy on this is we send them into rehabilitation, no any sort of punishment. We will give them a lot of support to get them out of this deep trauma that they have from by participating in this war. So I will lay out two arguments today. The first one would be manipulation by tyrants, and the second one is why is it important to not punish these child soldiers. Sorry, sit down. Tribal leaders / dictators promise the children false dreams. They promise that when the war ends, they will live in prosperity, they will win, they will feel victory. However, these are all false. Sometimes the tyrants threatens the child to go into this war, such as, we will kill your parents if you don't do this. Live another day. So they never wanted all of this. All this because horrific stuff. Just live. Why is it important to not punish the child soldiers? Say we win the war, the winning side, the children, what matters is how in the end, what matters is how the children view their opponents. If we punish them, we will exacerbate the victimization and breed more hatred from the child to the state. This is not what we want, because in the first place, the child never wanted to be an enemy of the state. they are simply doing this because they are forced into it. It is never on their own will that they want to do this. If we punish them, then they will hate us. It will breed more radicalization, and this is not what we want. So picture yourself in the situation. You are forced into doing something very bad, just to, and then when the war ends, the state punishes you. You'll be traumatized by that. So why should we traumatize these innocent children who are forced into this? So to end my speech, I would say we should not punish these child soldiers because they are already traumatized. They fear their leaders, and now we want to punish them. It's not the right thing to do. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.
I'd like to thank the Prime Minister. Now I invite Leader of Opposition.
The recruitment of child soldiers is a cruel and horrific thing. The government should not be complicit on the recruitment of child soldiers by making it easily done. Our stance is to protect the children of this world, whether they be a soldier or not. Firstly, let me talk about how these militia groups are normally formed. These militia groups normally recruit children through indoctrination or coercion. It is normally easier to convince these children to join when they know they will not be punished. All this normally takes place in war-torn countries such as Sierra Leone, where there are in fact militia groups with child soldiers. The opposition believes child soldiers should be prosecuted the same way whether they be a child or not. The rules of prosecution should abide to the regular rules. Countries should not change the law just because they are at war or just because they are children. Before I move on to my arguments, let me start with a few rebuttals. They claim that these child soldiers are just manipulated by tyrants. Wouldn't punishment make it for them to, they promise them dreams and goals, but if the child soldiers know that they'll be punished for joining militia groups, wouldn't they be more afraid of joining? It sends out a message. It sends out the message that that joining militia groups are wrong. Second, you claim that it is important not to punish them, as you want to incorporate them back into society. Wouldn't it make it worse if you don't punish those child soldiers who raped women? Would you be okay if a 15-year-old raped your child and not be punished and just be rehabilitated? Now on to my argument. A lack of punishment will only encourage militia groups to recruit child soldiers. Why? Let's first talk about why militia groups recruit these child soldiers. Children are easier to recruit and easier to influence. That is why they always, many militia groups target children. Besides, on top of that, child soldiers also add to shock value. These child soldiers have the ability to incapacite trained enemy soldiers. It's easier for recruiters to indoctrinate them or force them to join, knowing that they won't get punished. We believe that the number of people who will get punished will be far less than the number of people who didn't get recruited or didn't join this army and not end up, who didn't join the militia group and not end up dying. We believe that they are child soldiers are less likely to be enrolled and targeted by militia groups, and it is much harder to coerce them into joining. And even if child soldiers were to enroll for their own personal reasons, such as the killing of a family member, their own personal vendetta, it would be much less likely for them to commit war crimes as of the fear of punishment.
Yeah.
Yes.
So you do realize that this punishment laws that we are talking about is in country after post-war, which means it's not before the war happens, it's after the war happens.
Yeah. Sorry, could you repeat that?
That the context of the debate is post-war context. That means the war has already happened, child soldiers has already been used, and hence at that time should we prosecute the child soldiers?
Yes, you should. Okay, so just to wrap it up, we believe punishment is good as it will prevent more child soldiers from being recruited. Even if they do join in their own accord, more war crimes will be prevented as they fear punishment. I think the punishment of child soldiers is justified because in the bigger picture, more lives are protected. Thank you.
Yeah. So I'd like to thank the leader of opposition. And now to continue the case beside government, invite Deputy Prime Minister.
Bomb blasting, bloodshedding. I saw my parents drop dead. The only thing in front of me was a group of militias with arms, with guns which made them powerful. At that moment, I was in fear, I was depressed, I only wanted to live. Then the only way is to pick up that gun in front of me. Ladies and gentlemen, let me first integrate to my rebuttals and then I'll move on to my two positive points in my speech today. Statements that if we do not have laws, recruiters are more likely to recruit child soldiers into their malicious group. And secondly, children are more attracted to join malicious group if there was no laws to punish them. Now they made two assumptions when they made this statement. Firstly, they assume that children are attracted to killing people. Children are okay with doing horrific stuff. This is in fact not true. We all know that children are not rational like adults. We all know that children are deeply affected by emotional damage they have. We all also know, first thing we have to know is that recruiting a child soldier is already a crime. That comes, we do not have laws to prosecute child soldiers. If we do not have laws to prosecute child soldiers, recruiters will be more likely to recruit child soldiers. The fact here is that recruiting a child soldier is already wrong by International Geneva Court of War. Sorry, sir. Please sit down. Now, I would like to transcend to my two contentious in my point. Firstly would be my extension for my Prime Minister's speech, and secondly would be my own points about self-protection and avenging. Firstly, my Prime Minister come up and say what societal damage it also made. And it is proven scientifically, the more you victimize someone, the more they feel that their very reason to fight is true. Hence the very notion of creating a much more peaceful society in the future after the post-war will not occur, because now you have group of children who are envy against the enemy, because now we make them look like one side is the loser and the other side is the winner. The loser gets victimized for their crimes which they are forced into. And let me move on to my first point, which is self-protection and avenging. We from side government say it is okay, even if the child picked up arm and did horrific stuff, even if the child did horrific crime like in Sierra Leone, the child raped, we say it's still okay. The reason here why is that it is in-depth human nature for you to protect yourself when you are threatened, and this scenario is even much worse in beings of children who are irrational, who are affected by emotional. Sit down, sir. And this is the reason why decisions made under emotional circumstances have lesser punishment. For example, in crimes of passion, if a husband comes back home and sees his wife sleeping with another man, and the husband kills both his wife and his man, the husband is less likely to judge heavily because he did that decisions under emotional sense, which means he was irrational. Now, here's a question which I would like to ask to side opposition. If a mental patient killed the person, will you charge the mental person itself? No, you wouldn't, because he was irrational at that time. And children, as I told earlier, they are affected by the bloodshed they see, and they only do so for their own self-protection. Sorry, sir. Even if the opposition side claims that these children did it under patriotism or under avenging their country or avenging the dead, we still say it's okay. The reason why is because the child is living in an environment where he could not access the information around him. It is manipulated by the people around him, saying that we are on the side who's fighting the right war, and our cause have a cause which benefit us all. Decision made. Hence, the child not only do not have proper access to information to assess what is the situation actually, hence he do not make the correct choice and is more likely to be involved in this kind of horrific murders, horrific crime. And as I mentioned earlier, we believe that no child would ever want to do horrific such as rape. No child would ever want. Every child understands what does killing another person mean. Every child understands the pain of losing their loved one in a war-torn country. We are all humans. We have feelings. We have emotions. Anger is just part of us. Thank you.
I'd like to thank the Deputy Prime Minister. And now to continue the case for side opposition, invite Deputy Leader of Opposition. Thank you.
Yeah.
Put yourselves in the shoes of a parent of a child who just got raped. Imagine your 15-year-old daughter was raped when a child soldier, somebody his age, 17, who is considered a child, broke into your house and then decided that they needed to rape your daughter. They want to make all of these arguments that child soldiers have to do these things out of necessity. I don't see why a child soldier needs to rape another woman for their own safety. And all of the arguments about victimization actually apply to the opposite against them as well. Now, today I'm going to talk about how it's important that we provide retribution for the families of the victims and for the victims themselves. But before that, a few rebuttals onto what was said by the Prime Minister and the Deputy Prime Minister. They tried to say that children are innocent and that they only fight if they are forced to or coerced, and they only do it out of self-preservation. We tell you that this is not true, and that he literally contradicted himself by admitting that children rape women in Sierra Leone. This is a documented fact. Children do in fact commit war crimes, and the age of maturity is not the same as the age of punishment. Somebody who is 15 can commit a crime and still be considered a child, yet still be held accountable for his actions. We tell you that these children should still be punished for their actions, because if you do not, then there is no form of deterrence for them committing these crimes. If I am a 17-year-old and I think that I can rape this woman without being prosecuted, without facing punishment after the war, I am more likely to do that, am I not? Now, we also told you that it's less likely that these warlords will want to try and get these children to become child soldiers, because they know that they are going to get punished after. And it's also harder for them to recruit them in the first place, because you're not making it easier for them on our side. On their side, you're making it easier for them to recruit these child soldiers, because they can just say, oh, you can do whatever you want, you can join our cause, and then after the war, you won't get punished. Even if we lose, you have nothing to lose. You might as well join us. At least on our side, we allow for a rational calculus to come into the equation, and you allow for some counterbalance to occur. Before I carry on, yes.
So you do understand that a tyrant who recruits a child soldier, by international law, he's already committing a crime of recruiting a child. And second thing, no child would offer himself to be recruited by a tyrant and do horrific stuff if he knows the consequences.
Yeah.
Isn't that a point in support of me? And on top of that, the fact is that child soldiers do in fact perpetrate crimes which are not necessary for their preservation, For example, raping women, which is an example you used, which is actually an example of things which do happen. Now, he tried to say, and this is my last rebuttal, which leads me into my point, that it exacerbates the victimization because this is happening in a post-conflict society. We tell you that that point is actually even stronger on our side. You exacerbate the victims even more on our side because he tried to bring up all of these arguments that if you punish people for committing a crime which they did, they're just going to hate the state more. We tell you that that is not true because these people have to know that there are consequences to their actions, and this is something that they conceded to. And in actuality, in reality, you actually exacerbate and the victimization of the victims of these crimes. We tell you that if like for example, in the example which I used, if I had a daughter who was raped by one of these child soldiers, if I was raped by one of these child soldiers, or one of my family members was murdered by one of these child soldiers, I am more likely to be antagonized and against the government than on their side, because the government, for no reason which they have provided, has decided that they don't want to prosecute these child soldiers. You actually create more problems because now, not only do you have members of your society which are against the institution inherently because they were supporting the other side, but now you also have people who were initially supporting your institution, supporting your government, who are now against you. You only exacerbate the antagonization of the victims, and you cause more people to be against your institution and cause even further instability within your regime. We tell you that this is something that is not acceptable. We tell you that it is not only going to cause further harms, but it is unjust. Principally, it is not just to allow somebody to get off from what they did simply because they were slightly coerced into it and they cannot prove that these children were in fact coerced into doing these things. I tell you that it's not possible for you to prove that this child had to rape another woman just for their own self-preservation, and it's unjust for them not to face any consequences for their actions. I tell you that it's more likely that these children will commit these crimes if there are no consequences for their actions. It's like saying that since a lot of people are committing this crime, we're going to make it legal now so that less people will get punished for it. It's counterproductive, and it just means that the crime and the issue becomes more common. I tell you that all of our arguments apply because when you don't you send this crime from they have committed that now it sends
is more justified, which is more proportionate. Integrate. Let's make a comparison. Under punishment, under your world, no reintegration happens. Only more hatred. The life this child ends there. Our world, towards society, we give them encouragement that it's okay because you were forced to do so. You have another life in society. You deserve a second chance in society. The harms under your world do not equate. The harms under your world is just far badly to. Anyway, before that, I'll just think.
So why is rehabilitation mutually exclusive to your side? Under our side, we would agree that under the law, rehabilitation does occur because when you punish people, you also include rehabilitation. We have the best of both worlds.
Problem is that you are still inflicting punishment on them. So our side, we don't punish because we don't want them to have hatred. We don't want to breed hatred. We want to be. We want them to feel that we are treating them. We are trying to bring them back to the correct path. You, on the other hand, saying that there is rehabilitation in your definition of punishment. The problem here is that you will still breed hatred because you are doing things that makes this child feel that it is whatever he's doing is wrong, but he will feel that it is correct because you are punishing him for that, and he will not comply to your punishment. So under our side, we have proved to you that integration is 100% better than punishment because we give them the support, we give them the avenue to be reintegrated to society. When there is even a little form of punishment, you would further their radicalization, you will further their hatred towards the society, and therefore our world is the world where children will live a peaceful life, children will have a second chance. Thank you very much.
Yeah. All right. To end the substantive features, invite the opposition with.
It is funny that the government can come and tell us that, hey, children are completely naive to when they die, children do not want to commit crime. Now, first, let's go into what the government has said and what and children naturally I'll tell you what we have said. Government has tried to argue that before that, two main issues of today's debate. Sorry. So the two main issues of today's debate, which better side protects the children's safety, which we tell you under our side we only engage and government has not engaged at all. And the second, which is how if children should be held accountable under these circumstances. Now, let's go into the first issue. What have opposition told you about the first issue? Which better protects the children's safety? We've told you that deterrence happens. When children are being punished, when children are being punished, there's deterrence factor here. Why? When children know that they are being punished for something, naturally nobody wants to get punished. So if you know that you're being punished for something, you want to do it, you'll be reluctant to do so. And recruiters, secondly, when we've told you, when recruiters realize that, hey, children are being punished for this, now children are reluctant to do this. They now become no longer the main target for militia groups and such groups to recruit them to begin with. So on both sides, both the children are less likely to join the militia groups to begin with, and secondly, the recruiters would less likely to recruit them to begin with. Now, we tell you what happens under their side when there is no deterrence here. When we tell you that, hey, even as children, now that you commit war crimes, you will not be held accountable, and this is what happens. It sends a message to children that you can do war crimes, or rather any crime, i.e. raping in the place they specified. I.e. raping is specified. So under these cases, these children will be more likely to join militia groups or become soldiers in general because, hey, now I'm not going to be punished for what I'm doing, and now I can join this group, this exceptional group. I can join this group so I wouldn't be punished anyway because apparently they think I'm naive, they think I am irrational. And this then increases the number of children getting and becoming soldiers to begin with. Hence, then now, not only will the children be more willing to join militia groups,
they and become soldiers. Now recruiters will now prioritize them once again to become main targets, as we told you under the issue, which better protects the children's safety. And we tell you under that side, we completely win the debate. Under the second issue, if children should be held accountable, on the side of government has come and told you is that, hey, children are naive and become soldiers. And this is why we concede to the fact that under circumstances or under circumstances that children are naive. And this is why we need the deterrence factor coming in. We need this deterrence factor to prevent the children who do not know anything, they know that they're going to be punished. And that is the one deterrent factor that can deter them from becoming soldiers altogether. So now that they've told us that, hey, children have this natural moral compass to them and they eventually do not want to harm somebody else, we tell you it is easier for us when radio broadcasts the reason why they are being punished and tell them, hey, this is why you're being punished. It's easier for children now to understand and relate to the reason as to why they're being punished. It's easier for them to see why they're doing something wrong altogether. And under this case, we can also educate the children and have them not go against the state, as you say. And also, we've told you that, hey, under my DLO, Nikhil DLO, right? Yeah, right. So Nikhil as DLO, he's also told you how in perseverance, so he's told you under perseverance how crime should still not be committed, like raping. How some child soldiers still commit rape, and in that case they will let them go. We tell you that it is not fair for the people and that they should be retributed. Now we tell you that under rehabilitation, we tell you that integration still happens because they're not being executed. When we punish them, after punishing them, we tell you that even if we have worked, that one, they will still join the army because of there being no deterring factor. Then what then happens is that more children are exposed to war. And when more children are exposed to war, they'll be more exposed to dangers, and hence their very livelihoods will be exposed. What else have they come up and told you? They've also told you that recruiters currently, there are no deterring factor because even right now, recruiters or rather recruiting child soldiers is already a crime, and that it's not deterring the recruiters at all. And this is why, because of our deterring factor, it now deters the children, both the children and the recruiters. Why? Because previously, when it's the war crime in itself, it only applies to the recruiters. Now we tell you that it applies to both children and recruiters. So, ladies and gentlemen, on both issues, that which protects the children's safety, and the second issue, if children should be held accountable, we on the opposition side of the unity.
Right, invite Ob reply.
In the end, this debate boils down to two main issues. Which side protects society better and which side is more just? Now, I'm going to answer both of these questions and I'm going to paint a picture of the two different post-conflict societies in my speech. Now, on the point of which side protects society better, I told you both in my speech and Hazim told you in his speech that not only is it more likely that you are not going to commit a war crime or any crime when you are a child soldier, meaning better safety society, child soldier, less likely that you will become a child soldier or be okay with becoming a child soldier, and it's less likely that somebody will be able to recruit you as a child soldier because of the fact that we are making it illegal, because of the fact that these children understand that they will still be punished. We told you that these children are not completely innocent, that they understand what they are doing. And this is even conceded to on their bench on several occasions. They conceded that children are not completely innocent, yet in the same vein claim that they are. They contradict themselves completely here. And we've proven to you why the latter is true. Children are in fact not innocent. They are to blame for their crimes. Now, which side is more just? We prove to you that on our side, we provide a more just solution. We provide a world where people have to pay for their actions. We tell you that it's not okay for someone not to be prosecuted simply because they were coerced or because of the fact that they did something in a wartime. We tell you that it is never okay for you to go out and rape someone for no reason at all. And they tried to bring up a bunch of examples which all fall flat on their face. We tell you that it's more likely that you're going to commit a crime if it's not illegal, and it's more just that you do punish people for their actions, not only for the sake of rehabilitation, which is not usually exclusive to their side, but also for the sake of the families of the victims and for the victims themselves of these crimes. Now, which post-conflict society is more stable? Let's compare the two worlds. On our side, we have a post-conflict society wherein people are getting punishment which they deserve. You get people who are satisfied with the punishment which the people who perpetrated crimes against them are receiving, with actually rehabilitating these people who committed these crimes. Now, what you have on their side instead on their side, you have a society where these people who committed crimes such as rape and murder and all these kinds of things are not being punished for their actions, and then now you antagonize the victims of their crimes, which means that you create a more unstable situation. And just to add on to that, you end up creating people, you end up rehabilitating people and not punishing people who are against your regime, who will be more likely to be inherently against your regime, while antagonizing the members who are supporting your regime. For all of these reasons, the world in a post-conflict society in which we do punish people for their actions is a society which is far more stable and far more just.
Can this debate as a whole and write Gov reply.
Seemingly, when you when you're in a world where why, and thirdly, we have to understand the moral compass during war times change. Ladies and gentlemen, firstly, the deterrent factor. During a war, it does not matter anymore whether there's a law or not, because during a war, you simply do anything to support your side to win, because the child knows if his side wins and becomes the government, he will not be punished for his crime. Hence, their very idea of having laws that prosecute children will not work, because during war, it's all just and fair. That is the nature of war, the nature of you winning your side. And secondly, they talk about how not prosecuting the child soldier will reintegrate back to society and the victims will feel much more fair. Now I'll tell you what's the flaw in this. Firstly, we have to understand that the side that won in this war is the victim side. More likely, the child soldier's whole tribe, whole family will be prosecuted by the government who's sitting up there, and the child will not feel happy about that. You have to understand